Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to go talk about Gmail. We're going to talk about productivity tips, tricks, hacks, some things you may know about, some things you may not know about. So one of the first things that I want to show you is how to pre-label emails. So when we go into compose an email, this is something that we're sending to maybe an administrator, maybe a parent, maybe a student, maybe it's a colleague. But what this trick does basically is it pre-labels something that you send out, so when that person, that receiver of the email, um, responds back, it's already pre-filtered. And so I'm actually not going to compose the whole email, but when we go in here to send the email, let's just send it to my other. I can actually pre-label this before I send this. So if I'm sending it to another teacher, I label this, and when I send this email off to the receiver, it will actually show up in my labeled teacher box. And when they respond back to that email, it will come in with a pre-label. So this is a great way when you're sending emails, whether it's even a mass email to parents or a Skylar or some sort of message to the whole community, any response that you get back to that email will have a pre-label or a label on it that's in whatever category you choose. So it's just a great time saver. That 5 seconds that you spend, will save it on the back end. And we know for most of us, right, human nature is when those emails come in, unless you set aside time every week to filter those emails, they won't come through filtered. So anyway, so the next one is bringing priority emails to the top. So when we jump into our settings, we can click settings here, and it's going to give you the quick setting guide right here. You want to see all settings. And then if we go to our inbox right here at the top, we can actually select what kind of emails we want to see at the top of our inbox. So I think this depends on your role in the school or your small business, whatever you're doing, right? Um, for your career, is you can default, and this is what the default looks like. And this is where it'll have social, promotions. You can add updates and forms across the top. And right over here on the right, you can see here, this is giving you an example of what this is going to look like. So that's the default important first. That's how I normally have it set up, is I have important, and I can select how many items I want to see in that important. So if I do 25, 50, that'll just stretch out what that looks like. So if I did 50, and then everything else comes in after that. Depending on how you set up your important, everything could be important. So in reality, it's not necessarily a filter. You can do unread first. You can also do starred and multiple inboxes, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But the priority inbox allows you to mark unread first, or whatever you want to put. So if you want to have all of your starred emails come in, and again, this is something that you would set in your options, is that certain people get stars when that you get an email from them, whether it's your principal, maybe your department head, maybe it's parents. That's a little bit harder of a filter to put on because you've got parents sending in all of that information from different emails. And again, here you can have all of these different options with the right split below the inbox, and what that looks like basically changes on how you're doing. So I'm going to go back to mine, which is I have important first. So that's one thing that you can do. You can also allow Gmail to tell you what is important based on how many times you respond to that sender. Have you marked that sender or receiver previously as important? And so what will happen is it will automatically filter out the importance. So when I go back to my inbox, let me save these changes. So you understand what the important is. It's anything that has this little yellow mark. And you'll notice that all of my emails have this yellow mark. That's because I have it set to an important first. And so all of my emails that have important first, if I were to kind of select this in, now you'll have everything else, right? So this is my Twitter feed, MLS store, sales, YouTube comments, different things like that. Those are coming in unfiltered through important. So all of these have, basically a yellow mark next to them. So Google, right, or Gmail will filter that out for you. So if I go back to settings, see all settings, it was on the previous page. I should have just done it when we were there. And I click on inbox. You'll see right down here where we have importance markers. So you'll have the option to have no markers, show markers, and then the description right here, right? It says it right there. Gmail analyzes your new incoming messages to predict what's important, considering things that that you've treated similar messages in the past. And you can learn more about what that looks like. But right here, this is where you put that option on, is to use my past actions to predict which messages are important to me or important to you, right? As a live stream, right? Or those of you that are listening in the recording afterwards. All right, so when you're done with all of those changes, you need to hit changes. So the other thing that you can do is using Google Drive with your G Suite is, and now this is built right into Gmail. This isn't necessarily a tip or a trick, but this saves you from grabbing all of your stuff on your desktop or whatever. When you go to send a new email, down at the bottom, your drive is connected. So you can insert any type of file that you want from your drive. Now, it could be something that's been shared with you, a recent upload you can see here, but this is going into my drive. And so these are documents that I could then share out with my receiver, right? So it's a great way just to link your drive straight to Gmail and pull those files in. It's nothing new, but I think a lot of people forget that that's an option. So they go in and they try and grab it and they pull those things into Gmail. We spent a little bit of time on this last live tutorial a couple days ago, but I want to just show you the ability that you have for signature. So again, if we go into see all settings and we go to the inbox here, this general options here, and we scroll down to our signature. I do not have a signature page set up for this email account. So when I want to create a new signature, you can actually have multiple signatures and you can change that signature depending on who you're sending this email to. If you're a small business, obviously you want to set it up that way. But if you have a autoresponder or a landing page, or if you're a teacher sending an email to students, you could have a different signature as opposed to parents and staff and faculty and admin or whatever, however you wanted to set that up. So I'm just going to name this, right? Then I'm going to create the signature. I have the option here to do a lot of different things with this signature. You'll notice here is that I can use this on different options when I am sending to different people. I can insert this signature before quoted text. Maybe I want to have a quote that I put down below there. You'll have your WYSIWYG here, which is basically what you see is what you get. You can change the font size, you can add bold. And so depending on how you set up your signature, you can add your role. Doing this live again, right? But spelling things wrong, of course, because I'm live, and that's just the nature of human existence, right? I can grab all these. I can make them a little bit smaller if I want. I can add a quote here. I can add an image. I can link an image in here if I wanted to grab an image. I can just upload something from my desktop. This obviously isn't the one that I'm going to use, but we've, I've had some files that we've uploaded. So let's just say I'm going to use this little bunny. It'll shrink it down to, the size that I want to get it to in my signature. And maybe that signature, maybe it was too big. Medium, small. Even then, that's still a little big. We'll go with the original size. And I can actually link this if I wanted to. Now, there's a way that you do this. You just have a link here. You can grab the URL and you can actually post that over the image. I'm not going to take the time to do that now, but you can link that image so that image goes someplace else. There's other videos that I've done on this channel where you can learn how to do that. I think what you want to do is you want to be careful with their signature that you're not putting too much information in there to confuse people, or to kind of lose the message or the preferences of what that email signature is, right? Obviously, if you're in sales, you want to have like a link. Maybe they can build a time where they meet with you. Maybe your office hours are linked on there. Obviously, you would want to have your LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram profiles there, so they can catch you on social media. There's a lot of different things you could do with that signature. I'm not here to tell you how to do it, just that you need to have something there. And it's funny because I'm telling you to have it and I don't have it. I don't send a lot of emails out of this email account. This is more just set up for YouTube and StreamYard and some other those things that I use on this channel. So that's an option. So the other things that you can do are templates and canned responses. So this is more of a hack, right? That saves hours and hours of time in your Gmail, specifically when you're sending out emails on a regular basis to a specific group of people, and those emails generally have the same tone or the same message. So we're going to go back to our inbox. We're not going to save any of those. We'll click OK. Heading back to our inbox, we have what we call canned responses. And so when we go to our canned responses, if I'm composing an email, this will save you hours and hours of time. So when I click on compose, I have all of my message said. Down here next to your trash can where you're going to delete this email if you don't want it anymore, which then deletes after 30 days, I can go to templates. And when I create my template, the first thing that we'll want to do to create a template is just go through and can basically compose your original email. And when you compose your original email, so I'm just going to type in here to here. I can save this draft as a template. So the first thing you want to do is going to write your whole email, however you want it to sound. And then I'm going to save this, and you'll see right down here that I have the opportunity when I scroll over save as a template, I can save it as a new template. And I'm just going to do test for stream and click save. So then I close my email. That'll go into my drafts because I didn't delete it. And I want to compose a new email. When I click on the three little dots down here and I go to templates, you'll see now that I have this option for test stream, and it's going to pull up exactly what I have in this email. So it'll have all the text that I just wrote in. But what you can use this for, you can use this for attendance emails. You can use this for celebration emails. I use this personally as a birthday email to send out to all of my students on their birthday. I sit down once I have a roster of all the students' birthdays, and before the school year starts, I set a pre-template email up for a student's birthday. And obviously, I want to change the name of their birthday, and maybe we add a little image or a GIF or something like that in that. And then I actually go through and I put schedule send, and I send it on the morning of their birthday. So I know, if you have 3,000 students in a high school, that's a little bit unrealistic. Being in a virtual school, we don't have a large number of students. About 400, and then we can send emails out, and it takes me, probably 4 or 5 hours. But the return on that email, sending an email to kids on their birthday, is fantastic. You could do this with employees in your building. You can do this however you want. But if you have a sales funnel or you're sending weekly reports for grades, if your SIS system does not do this, you can do this straight from Gmail. And I can't remember the threshold, but Gmail, I think, lets you send out, if you're in a workspace education account, I think it's 1,500 emails a day. And I don't know very many, unless you're an administrator, right? But then you could just send out 2 emails, one on this day, one on this day, to cover everybody in your school. So the templates are great. There's a lot of different ways you can search on the internet to find out how to save time and frustration and whatever you're trying to do using Gmail templates. They are fantastic. You can have multiple templates. You can see here, I've got email number 1, school, the website, school. You can email those out in a bunch of different ones. And you can actually delete those templates and edit those templates at any time, that you can see right here. So the other thing that you can do with templates is, if I go down to draft as a template, the option to remove these, as I just said. So what I would do is I want to delete a template and hover over whichever template I'm trying to delete, and then that would delete that. So I'm actually going to delete the one that we just did here. It's going to ask me for a double delete. I click delete, and now I've deleted that email template. So I have a second monitor here behind it, and the camera's right here in the middle. So using that. Talking about email and Gmail shortcuts, there are lots of them depending on where you're at in Gmail. So making sure that those shortcuts are enabled. There's a great website up here, right? If you just click on Gmail shortcuts keys, it'll take you to support.google.com. I'm working on actually a visual right now to send out or to find one. These are all of the different areas where you can have shortcuts. And so depending on how often you use shortcuts, it's a habitual thing. You need to use them for a while before you get those shortcuts done. And they're obviously different than on a Mac and a PC. So for example, if I go down to compose and chat, we've got, about 12 or 13 shortcuts just in compose and chat. So if you wanted to, add a new email, different things like that, insert a link, you can access a custom form, you can add CC recipients. I'm not going to go through and read all of these, but that's how you would find the shortcuts in Gmail. And obviously when you're formatting text, you can see there's a lot of shortcuts. I'm not going to go through all of them, but enabling those, you actually have to put that in your settings that you want to enable this option in your Gmail settings. So let's jump into that. So if I go back to Gmail, again, we're going to go to settings. I should just have another window where this is open all the time. See all settings. And we're going to go over to advanced here. And you can click enable here or enable here. And when we click on save changes, our shortcuts are now available in Gmail, whatever part of Gmail you're in, whether you're in the chat option, the send option, the compose option, and navigate it that way. You can also open up the keyboard shortcuts tab in settings after you've enabled them. I believe it's just Control question mark, if I remember correctly, Command question mark. Oh, where is it at? I can't remember right off the top of my head. I know you can do it in Google Docs, and maybe it's different in Gmail, but opening up that tab there. So, J and K is basically your moving forward. You can archive. Shift 3 is to delete. If that was an email that was open to, so we'll close the settings there. Next option that you have is using Smart Compose. Smart Compose is basically like it fills out the rest of your sentences. It fills out the rest of your paragraphs when you're composing emails in Gmail. So that is another option that has to be turned on. And so if we go to, again, our settings and see all settings here, I'm actually going to open up another window so we just have it here at the ease of use. There, and this will stay as our inbox, so we can go back and forth. Should have done that before. I apologize. Right, doing things live. So in our general tab here, we can scroll down to Smart Composition or Smart Compose, and you'll see right here that this gives you predictive writing suggestions in your email. So when I go to Compose here, not going to do something. Make sure I turn it on. And I don't send enough emails. If I were in my school email, it would be composing, but it'll basically create sentences or complete your sentences, and you just hit tab or enter to adopt that change to that Smart Compose option. So the other thing that you can do is when you get your Gmail on a desktop, there's not a really fancy like you've got mail notification or whatever. You can waste a lot of time, I think, and energy monitoring your email. I am under a blocking email system where I only answer emails at certain parts of the day. And then I have chat live because chat's kind of how we communicate with our team, but I don't answer emails outside of a certain time of the day. But what you can do is you can get notifications on your desktop for new emails that come in. So the way that you would do that is obviously we're on our general settings here. We go to advanced and we scroll down to unread message icon, and then you would click enable this here, and then you would click save changes. After you've enabled the unread messages icon, you'll be able to see the number of your unread messages, and it's displayed over the Gmail logo on that tab. So you'll see now here up on I wish I could zoom in. Up here, there is a 9 sitting right over my inbox. So previous to that, you can see over on the left, right? There's the one in parentheses, but this is an overlaid right over your inbox. And that would change to a 10 or 11 or a 12, whatever, however many emails that you have. And it's such a great visual way to see. If you're somebody that's in your email all day long and you're constantly checking it, this is not something that is for you. I just think that, again, every business is different. I have my personal preferences. I'm just sharing with you ideas that would help you be more productive. I personally don't use this because I only answer emails during a certain portion of the day, both in the morning and in the afternoon. I work in a school, so our setup is a lot different, right? I feel like as the principal, I need to be out and visible and communicating with kids and being available for teachers and parents and different things like that. And so answering email during the day is just not something I do. Previously, though, when I worked in, small business, different things like that, that was something that I had open all the time and on my phone and notifications turned on, because you're talking about money, you're talking about sales, you're talking about problems, all that kind of stuff. Generally, if there's an emergency in the school, you're going to have a walkie-talkie. You're going to get a text on your phone to your personal number. You're going to get something a little bit more immediate than your email. And if you're that principal, right, that sits in their office all the time, maybe that's something you should look about changing, right? Being more visible in your school. And again, that's just me putting that out there. Hopefully, that's not judgmental for you. So I'm going to go back in and turn that off. So go back to advanced settings and excuse me, I'm going to disable this, save changes. And then you'll notice back here in the stream, when I go back to my inbox, it just has no little notification on that bar. So that's notifications. Another great thing, right? And this has been out for a few years and I still see a ton of people that don't take advantage of it, is actually creating a delay of when you send an email. So I don't know the technical side about how it does it, but before you send an email, Gmail will hold it for 5, 10, I believe 30 seconds. So we'll jump into those settings. And so you can see what that looks like. So then when you send an email that maybe has an error or it doesn't have enough information, or you decide that you don't want to send it right at that time, you can actually click the undo button and it'll bring that back to your inbox. So when we go to settings, here, what we'll want to do is we'll want to look at, oops, sorry. I'll close this. See all settings. There we go. It's in general. So the fourth one down, and it says undo send cancellation period. So you have the option to do this for 30 seconds. I do it at the maximum. So you'll be able to extend this to whatever length that you want, whatever you're comfortable with. It's a lifesaver. I'll be honest with you. It just helps when you send an email. I think there's those moments that we've all had, right? We're human, where maybe we get a frustrating email from a parent or a student or a faculty member or a client or a customer, and we want to respond back. General rule of thumb is you don't necessarily want to respond to emails when you're angry, because you end up saying things or sending things that you regret. Um, my general rule is, if it's something that I need to think about and kind of walk through, is I'll wait a day, I'll wait 24 hours, or I'll send it to somebody else, have them read it, and see if the tone and the message that I want to get across is clear, but also kind. Um, so doing this saves you a lot of headache in the long run. The most important thing you want to do is, after you've changed this 30-second delay option, is you'll want to click on Save Changes. And once you've done that, I'll show you here. Again, we're going to compose an email. You'll see right up here, I'm going to click OK. Down here, I have 30 seconds basically to undo this message. So this little tab down here, it's right behind my window. I'm going to click undo, and then that message gets pulled back into my inbox. It has not actually been sent. And that'll sit right down there for about 30 seconds, right? I mean, whatever time it's 10, 20, 30 seconds. So it's a great way to just undo our screw ups. I would love a real life filter of 30 seconds. Anyway. So the other thing you can do is you can use Gmail offline. We got about 15 more minutes, 10 more minutes before we stop. Gmail offline. I have to do a part 2 on this one. So Gmail offline. Again, this is in settings. So if I go back to our settings page, up here in settings, I believe it's in advanced or general. I don't know. Let me see if I can remember. I have notes over here that I'm looking at. Oh, there it is, all the way over here next to advanced that are offline. I can enable offline email. So when you're selecting this option, you need to decide how you're going to do this. Do you want to store email for the past 30 days, 90 days? You can see this, right? It'll download attachments. Depending on how much space you have, excuse me, if you're on an educator account, I think they're limiting it soon, but right now you have unlimited, right? I mean, like terabytes, right, worth of information. If you're just on a personal account, you've got 15 gigabytes. You can see that right down here in the bottom left-hand corner. If I can move my screen. Let's see if I can go full screen like that. There you go. So I'm not here anymore. So right down here, I have my 3.78 of 15 gigabytes used. So you can tell Google how long you want to save that information for. The other option that you need to figure out is, do you want to keep the offline computer on your computer, or remove data from your computer? I think when you would want to do this would be if you're going to a place where you know you're not going to have internet, right? That's the easy way to do it, right? But you have to have it where it downloads that information automatically, and you can read the information here. Data stored. I'm not going to read it for you. You can read it. It's just right there if you want to change the option. And again, anytime you make a change to this, I'm going to not enable it. Is you want to save those changes, otherwise it doesn't take effect in your settings. Now, this will take a couple minutes to sync and download your emails before you venture offline. So you're going on a long flight, going out of the country, doing different things like that. Next great tool that, I mean, it really is a hack, is sending emails in advance. I use this more and more now to remind myself, and I know you can put stuff on calendar, you can do tasks and different things like that. I run my workflow through my inbox. So my task list is basically my inbox, because that's things coming in that I need to do. I mean, we work in a district with 55,000 students. We've got 13 middle schools, 30 elementary schools and 7 high schools. And so all of those different schools sending emails back and forth, I run my task list through Gmail. And that's separate from my personal task list of, things I want to accomplish that day, talking about the day-to-day things. So, I talked about blocking earlier in the day. in the morning when I block out my time for my email, that creates the projects that I'm going to work on that day outside of my personal projects that I'm working on. Um, so if there's, a parent that needs a transcript sent to them, or it's the end of the year and we're working on end of the year checkout things for families, or end of the year checkout for myself as a principal, all the things I need to take care of. As I'm emailing people out and having them, send me different documents or reports or different things like that, so I can take to, my checkout. I would leave those emails in my inbox until all of them are done. So going back to scheduling emails in advance, I think a lot of you at this point in time are familiar with this option. And so when we compose an email, um, and I'm going to try and make this split screen there. When we compose an email, it's great to send this at a later date. And so if I go to inbox and let me make sure this is big again. There we go. Compose an email. I click on compose. I send it to whoever I'm going to send it to. And right down here next to the big blue send button, there's an option to schedule send. I actually have to put something in there, who I'm going to send it to. It's going to give us some generic kind of dates and times: tomorrow at 8, this afternoon at 1, Monday morning at 8. You can edit these later and all of them. I don't necessarily want to go into that right now because we're going to go short on time, and I'll have to do another day. But you can pick a video or pick a date and time here. You can do months, you can do years, and you would just go through and select this. If it's somebody's birthday and you want to have a reminder that pops up that it's their birthday, there's all sorts of reasons that you would want to have this created. Maybe there's a deadline, but you have everything done now, but you don't want to send something too early because it might not be received, right? So an example of that, maybe there's something due on August 3rd and you're done with it now. If you send it now, it might get lost in the receiver's inbox. And so maybe you send it 2 or 3 days before August 3rd, maybe August 1st or July 30th or whatever. But you go through here, you can pick your date, your time. There's a little clickable calendar. I'm going to send this on the 14th of November, schedule send. And again, remember, I've got my 30-second undo option down here. So this is scheduled to send on this date. And I'm going to leave it there because it's important to know if I want to edit this or change these at a later date, where those go. It actually becomes a draft in your draft inbox folders, but in a separate scheduled folder. And you can actually see it right here. So in my inbox kind of tabbed over here in scheduled, you've got this one that I just created. I can open it back up again. When I click cancel send, it's going to pull that email back up into my inbox so I can actually compose that email and either resend it on a different day or send it right then. So a lot of people use this to remind themselves. A lot of people use these to send this in the future. Whatever you use it for, it doesn't matter, right? You could use it as a drip system, right? I mean, most drip systems, if you're in sales or small business, they have those built in for email drips that come in a drips, basically like one email a week for 5 weeks, or it's a course that you're doing or something like that. So it's a great way to schedule emails outside of the time that you would send it normally. So the other thing that I think is super helpful is mass unsubscribing from mass emails. Google just made a recent update, probably within the past 6 months, is doing this with your whole inbox. So we're going to jump in here, and I don't really, yeah, we'll do this with this account. So everything else. So when I click on, you'll see, I'm going to do everything else. When I click on this little button at the top, I'm going to mass select, and I am going to mark as read. If I had thousands of emails, it would give me a pop-up right here on how to mass unsubscribe, mass select, mass delete. So one of the things that I like to do is mark things unread first and then delete them. And then Google, right, will delete those after, I believe it's 30 days now. And you can look that up online. But now all of these are unread. So I want to do this again, and I would put them in the trash. And they've all been deleted. And I don't have a lot of them. I don't have a lot of them here that are trash. So I'm going to leave these here and go back to my important inbox. So you can mass delete any kind of option that you want, and do that with hundreds or thousands of emails, right? So if you have a Twitter account, or if you have a Facebook account, or a pretty aggressive notification account, you can obviously turn those notifications off on the actual, app or social media account itself. But the way that you delete all of those is kind of just what I showed you, and you can do a search for all those. So if I wanted to search anything with an attachment, or if I just go from Twitter and pull all of this up, it's going to give me a ton of emails. I can delete all of these emails, and you'll see here, this is what I was trying to look for. Select all conversations that match this search. It's done all of those, and I'm going to click mark as read. Confirm that you want to do this in the bulk option. Yes, I do. And those will be all marked as read. So I'm going to clear that selection now. And again, you'll have more, right? So sending emails from different email addresses, it's something that you can actually add another email address to your current email address. So this is helpful at times because maybe you're in a situation where you want to send an email coming through this, and kind of like group those together. So again, we're going to go back to our settings. And we're going to do accounts and import. And then send email as. We're going to click add another email address. This is where you would then add a new email address, which I'm not going to add now because then all of my emails will be coming from here. Is click next step. You kind of go through this process. You'll add this other email. And then the next time that you go out and send an email, instead of being, Mr. Campbell rocks, it'll come from whatever you decide right here. And you can put the name and the email address right there. So it's a great way kind of like to filter those emails through however you want to do that. You have to go through and set some stuff up here. I'm not going to go through this now because then it'll change it. I'll have to go back and change it all back. But as far as the tricks and tips today, I think that's about 10. We've got another probably 30 or 40 on my list. So I'll do part 2 probably next week. Most likely, if you're here, it's because you're in small business, you want to get better at Gmail, want to be more productive, or you're an educator. If you're an educator, thank you for what you do for kids on a daily basis. You are changing lives. I love you. I appreciate you, and I'm glad that you're here.